Welcome to this presentation. I thank the organizers that I'm able to present this paper here. My name is Franziska Kaiser. I'm from HEC Lausanne and WIPO. And this is a cooperation with Christian Peukert from HEC Lausanne and with Jörg Claussen from LMU Munich. It's called On the Road Again, Live Music in the Digital Age. To give you a short overview of the background of the paper, this graph shows you the massive changes in record and music industry in the last 20 years. So we can see this 70% reduction in revenues from physical formats since the year 2000 until the year 2012. But one might ask, is this actually important, or should we economically actually only look at artist income, which then enables them to continue the output of new music? So let's look at artist income. And here we can also see from these descriptors data that there has been a 30% reduction in artist income over the same period of time. We can see that artist income mainly consists of these three different kinds of elements. So first, the contract royalties, on the other hand, concert income, and then also some minor freelance sales. And we can see that this decrease in income is mainly caused by this strong decrease in royalties. Whereas the artists apparently try to fill the gap through playing more concerts. And this shows us that concerts are actually an important part of artists' income and are increasingly so since the year 2000. So when we now ask, why does the effect of concerts on recorded music actually matter? We can first look at what have previous studies done. So previous studies have been focusing on the relationship between unlicensed music consumption, so mainly piracy, and both recorded sales as well as live performances. And across all these papers, piracy displacement rate are on average about 20%. But that's not all we know about the distribution channels for music. There are a few other studies that actually establish this link between recordings as well as licensed digital services and live performances. What is still unclear is this link that goes from live performances to licensed digital music consumption. And this is important because digital services are now much more important than kind of physical sales of recorded music. And there's this paper where Luis Aguiar and Joel Bartfogel look at this, especially the user-based remuneration models. So in the CD era, only the extensive margin counted. So it was only important whether one would buy a CD or not. It did not matter how often one would actually listen to that CD. In the streaming era now, this counts. So the intensive margin is actually important. So not only whether you play an artist once in Spotify, but whether you play the artist many times or only once. So this kind of intensive margin is of high importance. And we want to look at this in our paper. So we want to address the question, what is the causal effect of live music on demand for recorded music? And we want to look at this extensive and the intensive margin. We have this data that actually looks at, so we have this individual level concert attendance data and also the music listening behavior of the same people. We face an endogeneity problem, and this is that people actually attend concerts of bands they like to listen to. And then bands play concerts to sell more records or to generate more streams, obviously. And the solution that we have is that we want to look at canceled concerts and compare the listening behavior of users that actually went to a concert that was not canceled in comparison to users that could not go to a concert and were kind of informed in short notice. So our results show that concerts lead to a 20% more plays at the extensive margin. And in terms of when we look at this from the digital era, this would resemble $12,000 of yearly income. On the other hand, we can see that concerts lead to 90% more plays at the intensive as well as the extensive margin. And within the streaming era, in which we are kind of now, right? So this would resemble $6,000 of yearly income. I will show you now the data and the research design. So we use data from Last.fm, and we have individual level online and offline listening data. So Last.fm was kind of the first website that would gather music listening behavior from users from different kinds of apps. So there was not only Spotify that was only coming up during that time, and iTunes that had been established already, and Deezer, but there were also kind of these offline listening listening data that we can gather from the Windows Media Player and Winamp, which actually consists, this is like a large part of the data that we have. And the other part that Last.fm had was this kind of Facebook-like event pages where people could click whether they want to go to a concert or and whether they actually went, and where the concert would take place, as well as when the concert would take place, and they could also see whether their friends would attend. And so we actually have this data on concert attendance of people, or the data shows us whether the person clicked on that button saying, I want to go to that concert. The more important part here is that around 1% of all concerts got marked as canceled, and we can see this in our when we scrape the data. So we can see here that the concert was canceled in the end, and we still know who wanted to go and then who could not go in the end. So, so concerning our sample construction, we scraped all these events listed on Last.fm between 2009 and 2012. And we compare the treatment group with the control group, and we have random samples of both groups from 10,000 users. And the treatment group here is that here consists of users that went to an event of an artist whose events were at some point canceled at least once, but not in this time, so the person could go in that moment. And the control group would be a user that said that he or she wanted to go to the concert or intended to go to the concert, but this concert was eventually canceled and couldn't go. So we have the full listening history of these users. We kind of scraped all songs or players that this user was listening around that time, or like within these years. And we only keep users where we can actually see at least one play over the whole period, obviously. So that our final sample consists of these 7,100 users, more than 25,000 artists, and almost 60,000 events over the period of these 208 calendar weeks within these years. Concerning the identification strategy, we have then the dependent variable, which is user artist week level plays, and we look at the extensive as well as the intensive margin. So we look at we not only look at whether a user actually listens to an artist in a certain week at all, but also how often the user would then listen to that artist in that week. And we compared the treatment group to the control group, and the treatment group is this group of users that went to an event, whereas we control it to a user that wanted to see the same artist in a different event, which was eventually cancelled. As you might have guessed already, we use a difference in difference model, and we compare these concert goers to the ones that could not go. And we have data before and after the concert, and we use different kind of fixed effects. Here you can see our first results. So this is the difference in difference estimation results for the extensive margin. And we can see this positive, significant kind of 12 weeks long effect when comparing to people that could not go to the concert. And we can see that this effect starts kind of before the week of the concert, which is in the week 0. We look at 12 weeks before until 12 weeks after. And we can see that up from 4 weeks before the concert, we see this kind of preparation effect. We see that the highest streaming behavior is then it peaks in the week of the concert, and then it goes down slowly until the week 8 after the concert, and then afterwards we cannot see a significant difference anymore. So we have this kind of non-standard difference in difference approach because we can see this kind of preparation behavior before the treatment takes place. And now it kind of becomes a judgment call on how to define the treatment period. So we can either look at 2 weeks around the concert, or also 4 weeks around the concert. When looking at the intensive margin, so whether the person, not only whether the person played the artist, but how often the artist played, how often the user played a certain artist, if he or she had listened to the artist at all, then the effect is a little more short-lived, and it peaks in the week after the concert, not in the week of the concert, but in the week after the concert. We can see that also here there's this kind of 4 weeks or 2 weeks bandwidth or like window that we could look at. In terms of these numbers, we can see our difference in dissonance estimates here. So we restricted our sample to this 12 weeks before until 12 weeks after the concert. And we look at different kinds of treatment periods. So either 2 weeks around the concert or a 4-week window around the concert. In these estimates, we also include calendar week and user artist, as well as user and artist fixed effects. We also include standard errors at the cluster level. And we cluster them at the user level, sorry. And here we can see that there are little different estimates for 2 weeks and 4 weeks, but we can see this consistent positive effect, which here accounts for 20%, kind of in comparison to non-treatment period. When we then, this was the extensive margin, when we look at the intensive margin, this affects for 4 weeks windows even much stronger. So we can see this 200% increase in streaming behavior. And when we look at these extensive and intensive margins together, we have this kind of 90% effect size relative to the mean outside of the treatment period. For the 4 weeks window, this 90% accounts. And this effect size, we try to take some assumptions and to calculate how much this actually means in terms of a dollar value, or in terms of how many concerts this would resemble. So when we now look at this added record in income from concerts, which means not the income that comes from the concert, but the income that comes from additional music plays, based or around the concert. So in the CD era, this would only consist of buying new CDs, so this extensive margin, and it was around $720 per concert. Now in the streaming era, this would be $190 per concert, and this is then mainly only streams because no CDs are mostly bought anymore. And we can now look at how many concerts were more or less played. So when you look at the Billboard 200 album charts artists, so this is kind of the more popular group of artists, they play around 17 concerts played in 2012 in the year 2000, and this increased to around 25 concerts in the year 2011. And when we multiply this, we can see that in the year 2000, the added recorded income added up to more or less $12,000, which only consisted of these extra CDs that one would buy after the concert or before the concert. And in the year 2011, this only consists of stream, and this would add up to $4,750, more or less. So the average artist income from a concert is between $5,000 to $12,000, and we will now take this into account and compare it. We would see that an artist would play around about 1 to 2 more concerts in the absence of these spillovers from recorded income. It doesn't matter whether this is in the CD or in the streaming era. If you want to have any more questions about these calculations or anything in the paper, don't hesitate to send me an email afterwards. I will shortly give you the conclusions. So we estimate the causal effect of live music on demand for recorded music, and we look at individual level concert attendance and music listening data. Our results show that concerts lead to 20% more plays at the extensive margin and 90% more plays at the intensive plus the extensive margin. Without the effects on income from recordings, we would have more or less 1 to 2 concerts less per artist in a year. And we would say that the aggregate supply of concerts seems consistent with changes in distribution and remuneration models. So thank you very much for your attention. As I said, send me an email in case you have any questions. Reach out to me. I would be super happy to discuss this research with you. Thank you.